What is going on, ladies and gentlemen? I am BDLM, coming with my buddy J4Y, bringing you episode number 72 of our Dota on a Man podcast. What is going on, my feathered friend?
Feathered friend indeed, for those who are actually watching and not listening. I am apparently a pigeon today. I'm over here at a friend's house, and getting a long weekend started early, actually, as it turns out. It's snowing, so I decided to show up a day early for this epic LAN we're going to be having, which BDLM will eventually be joining here.
At some point.
You know, assuming he can trudge through the 20 feet of snow or whatever happens overnight.
Yeah, so disclaimer, there are people at the LAN, so we apologize if there's any random shouting or anything. It's not a LAN party. It's really J4Y felt the need to go to Terp's house, who we have mentioned on the show, and make sure that he uses his bottle on Doom. He actually is going to be sitting over his shoulder, pushing the button for him to drink from the bottle just to make sure that it sticks. I will say, to Terp's credit, he has actually built drums multiple times this week, and for that I'm very proud.
On his own, may I add.
On his own.
Yeah.
I didn't even have to harass him or threaten to come to his house to watch him build it. It was really pretty good.
Progress has been made.
Yes. I do have to say, though, before we get into the Dota talk, I'm just going to give you a little bit of insight into the RL here. As you said, it's snowing here, and I had the pleasure of our Christmas tree started to die, and it started to get little what are they called? Little pines?
Yes,
the leaves
pines.
From the tree.
No, they're not
they
leaves.
They just started going everywhere. We had to take the tree outside and try and get like 8 strings of lights off of it, standing out in the cold. It was terrible. And I don't like the snow. I thought I would, but it's not. It just reminded me to stay inside and play more Dota, I have to say. But, I want to say a couple things before we get deep into the discussions. One thing we did last week, which I actually thought was really awesome, it's a great time to bring it up since you don't have your webcam this week.
Right.
But we've talked about it a lot since we started doing this. The Dota on Demand podcast, of doing like a little clips, little snippets, little behind the scenes, if you will, of like the 5 minutes before and after we start, because we're super serious all the time, as all you listeners know, and we tend to go just a little bit off the deep end before and after the show. So we caught one of those on camera. You guys should totally go check it out. It is the Dota on Demand behind the scenes #1. And Jay, would you like to enlighten us with your?
Well,
just don't tell him what happened. Just give him a little bait trap. Get him in.
all I have to say is, if you're looking to enjoy some rhythms and really
Blues.
feel the energy, and get it all captured in just like a minute, that is the perfect way to really get the full potential out of that time period.
It's like a really bad car accident where you don't want to look, but you can't look away.
That really hurts my feelings.
Well, I really meant to say was that it was beautiful, well choreographed, and you'll probably win an Oscar for it. Probably.
I hope someone submits it for me. I don't know how else you get it in there, but yeah, no, you guys should definitely check it out, and we're gonna start doing that. Like you said, this week. Probably an exception, obviously, since unless you want to see some pigeon action, I don't know what that involves. But but we are going to start just recording those and putting up ones that we think are entertaining to you guys as well. And just give some feedback. Let us know what you guys think about it. If you think it's something that might turn into something more, we'll be glad to continue doing it.
And nominate it for an Oscar, for sure.
Please do.
So this week, it's mostly going to be about kind of the weeks after the matchmaking has hit, and sort of getting a thermometer on what your rating sort of is, and how we've gone about just crashing ours into the ground as hard as possible. And then also talking about a comment that Scott Balfour made, which actually made me Facebook unfriend him. He's not getting a Valentine this year for Valentine's Day. I cried. You had to hold me. It was really awkward for anybody who watched. Scott dropped by and put in some thoughts on the Rod of Atos, and so kind of just wanted to talk a lot about that item tonight, and just sort of maybe the items that you don't really get to see a whole lot in general, and just maybe why we don't get a chance to see them. Because, that item in particular, Rod of Atos, is one that I feel like it's really just sort of misunderstood because some pro players like to build it a lot, and then others don't build it at all. So that'll be really neat to talk about later. But how are you feeling about the pub games this week, Jay? How's your rating standing up?
It's been quite a roller coaster this time. Now, granted, last time we talked, you gave me a lot of trouble with not playing Tusk games because I made the deal with the viewers. I said I'd play my 25, and I wasn't doing it, and you got on my case, and you know what? I obey. I listened to reason, and I had the whatever you call it, like a hardening moment or life lessons or whatever you said. I listened, I reflected, and I have since then played, except for Wraith Knight. I have to admit I haven't played Tusk and Wraith Knight, but that's not my fault. Hey, they could implement it if they wanted. But no, I've been playing nonstop Tusk, and like I said, it's really been a roller coaster. I've had some really high highs, and I've had some really low lows. I'm not going to go obviously to all of them, but I will say that my current record is 9-8, above 500, barely. But you did give me 60% estimated win rate, so I'm right around there at the moment, and I've got 8 more games to go. And I was telling viewers, some of them added me and wanted to play, but it just hasn't worked out for whatever reason. But if you guys want to get in some of these last Tusk games, I'm sorry if you want to. I mean, it's your loss, or well, not necessarily loss, but it's not my fault. I'll say if you gain a loss from the experience. But I wanted to say I have learned a lot about the hero, and it's kind of interesting to play heroes so much in a row, and do it. It's also nice, I feel like, to do it in the same role, because I've mostly played middle. I have tried pretty much every single role now, but I've played middle the most. I'd say probably 80% of my games, and you get a lot of different matchups. I mean, some I've played. I think Pudge has been the one I've played the most against, but you really get a feel for what's really strong against something and what's not. And, I've gotten my butt handed to me by Viper and Kunkka, and I know, hey, if I see them mid, I'm never going Tusk against them. And likewise, if I play against some other heroes like Nukers who have no mobility, level 4, I get kills on them. It can go either way, but it's definitely been a great learning experience, and I think I've come out really for the better already.
I'm proud of you, especially because you did play the tri-lane support Tusk as well.
I sure did. We won that game, too, may I add.
Yeah.
And I've built mech on him 3 times now, may I just say, which I have to admit I don't enjoy ever building mech on him, because he's such a great nuker. It just feels like you're not taking advantage of his kit. He's like a Nyx, that's like building a mech on Nyx Assassin. I'm like, no, I don't want to do that. I want to try to finish people off, not initially think, oh, hold on, guys, I'm going to back off and heal my team. No, I'm going to continue the pressure. So it's a weird feeling, but I've done it nonetheless, and I think for your pleasure more than mine, but still I've done it either way.
And it's great, too. We have this LAN party, like we said, coming up, so we might actually be able to finish up the Tusk games. I mean, I imagine over the course of 3 days, we might get more than 8 games of Dota.
Possibly, unless they're all Wraith Knight. Then, who knows?
Ooh,
Gotta get that plus down,
That has still not happened, and it still makes me really sad. So if any of you viewers are interested in doing that before Wraith Knight, goes away, packed away with the Christmas lights, let us know. We're definitely interested in getting you in there. But yeah, I've been trying to pay attention to some of the Twitter, because I can do that now. Posts by some of the pro players, and people have been talking about in the game, sort of in the picks and whatnot, of just how other pro players are doing with this new matchmaking system. I know Feta is rocking a 6.1k solo. I think his party matchmaking is 5,800. S4 is apparently really high. Jerix, who is sort of famous for the Earth Spirit video that he made. Mm-hmm. So it's really kind of interesting. I mean, I'll admit to floating around the 4K plus mark for the party rating. I don't even. Well, it's 41 something. Yeah. So it's been interesting. It's been a lot of fun. It's nice seeing how your win-loss ratio isn't necessarily directly related to your rating, I feel like. I don't know. Do you have any experience that? I feel like I don't lose as much for losses sometimes, or win as much for wins. I don't know.
It's supposed ever since the calibration, that's kind of how it's supposed to be. But I think I get the same vibe. Like I've looked at my rating changes, and it seems like I've gained more from winning than I've lost from losing. But that might just be. I honestly don't know. I think obviously it depends on the rating of the opponents as well, and there might be other factors that they just don't tell us about. But mine hasn't really changed much, and I think I was on a streak of like 5 losses recently, all Tusk games, of course, but that's not the reason. But still, it was a lot of losses, and still my rating has not really plummeted. I started at like 4250, and I'm still at like 4150 right now or something. I mean, I haven't really fluctuated at all. So you kind of, as long as you don't go like insane, like on like a 30-game loss streak, you'll probably maintain for the most part. And then with the party rating, it really comes down to who you group with. I mean, I have to say it. If you surround yourself with good players, you'll find your rating increasing over time because you're going to obviously just do better. So, I mean, it makes sense. And solo rating, that would fluctuate just based purely on luck, I think, of your teammates. But that's a whole different argument that I don't even know if we should get into.
Yeah. I mean, I know a lot of some of the, what I was reading from pro players saying, like, yeah, I kind of just, like, started here, and I've sort of maintained this rating for the most part. But, I think it's just neat to get to see a more broad spectrum than I had originally imagined. Because I know, when I was first hearing about what other people were getting in their ratings and stuff, they're like, oh yeah, 5K is like good, like really good, and then 4K is bad. It's like, what? that's a very small window. So it's actually nice to see that it's a wider spectrum than just a couple hundred points. You sort of do get some room to put yourself along the spectrum. But how have you liked the games so far? Have you had any particular? I know we got to play some games with Sniper Joe, viewer +1.
Yes.
And of course, because it's like you just find yourself in that like special circle of hell where like you run through one exit of the tunnel and then you just come in the other side, like that scene from The Matrix, or like where I go on my Doom should get bottle thing, and then Sniper Joe's friend plays Doom and doesn't get bottle, and I'm not going to say we lost because of it. I'm just going to say it was a little painful. That's all.
There were probably a lot of other factors that game that we lost.
There were some contributing factors. But we also got to play a captain's draft. Master Drafter Bedlam here.
You did quite well. Well, we were pretty skeptical, I have to admit. We were a little skeptical in there.
It was a greedy draft. There were some moments where you go, oh, was there just too much greed? Can we not win with this team? But no, we did it. We did it. Wraith King actually picked up. I gotta say, I liked it. Obviously they just changed the cosmetics of the hero. They removed the Mortal Strike activatable. Really, the last buff we've seen since then, I believe, is the Vampiric Aura working on ranged creeps. But it was actually kind of nice. And there have been those handful of pub games, maybe, or not pub games, but competitive games. Maybe not in super recent history where Skeleton King's been picked up, but it was kind of nice to get to see him sort of played in a sort of pre-made setting and get to shine a little bit and show you why he's not the worst hero ever.
My shining moment from that game, unfortunately, due to it being Captain's Draft and there was actually no Tusk in the pool, so I literally couldn't choose him. You gave me Dragon Knight for middle, and I just remember we were pushing down middle lane or something. We like won the fight and we had like everyone alive, but like with 100 health or less or something. And you made a comment like, "Well, that was purely based on that Wraith King aura and like keeping everyone sustained." And at first I was like, "No, I'm a dragon. I'm ranged. What are you talking about?" Like, and then later, I sure enough moused over the ability. It was like, "Oh, that's right. They changed it. It's everyone now," and it absolutely was. It was amazing. Just giving that sustain to a hero like Dragon Knight as well as other core. Like you said, we were running a tri-core lineup, so we had 3 really strong damage dealers, and giving them all lifesteal in that game really made a huge difference. I didn't have to build it. Like normally you see Helm the Dominator come out in DK. I could just skip it and go more of a damagey kind of build, and it really worked out amazingly. So I enjoyed it, and he's such a strong laner. That's the thing. He, if you pair him with someone else that's really good, you guys ran offlane, I believe, and did really strong down there.
Yeah, I might be testing your memory here, but the third of the carries was Wraith. It was Wraith King, Dragon Knight. Do you remember the third by chance? Anyway, not important. The thing that
No,
I really liked about even just having those two heroes together was it was just like obviously the Wraith King's nice because he dies and you can res and come back in the fight. You apply yourself with the ultimate. You have a whole nother health bar to use. But just being able to have two durable heroes that have strong mid-game presence, be able to take advantage of that lifesteal aura. There was health to refill along the way. It wasn't just like there was a flimsy agility carrier that just sort of had to pump out the damage to take advantage of the lifesteal aura. It was that you were able to sit in the fight a long time and draw the fights out, which I feel like made a big difference. I mean, I played Skywrath Mage that game, which was a lot of fun. I've been playing a lot of Skywrath lately, actually.
And it's been wonderful.
I'm loving it. And, it's just nice being able to throw out those AoE slows, potentially, the silence to help break up the fights. It was a lot of fun. I really enjoyed that game.
Yeah, silence is really come in such handy, and pretty much any point in the game, obviously. It's just such a long silence, and it's got a pretty long range that you can initiate with it, and if you just get a stun in, like I've been playing Tusk with you, obviously, and like if I Shadow Blade in to approach them, you just get that silence right away. I do my burst combo, they've got nowhere to go, and they're dead. And I mean, that's happened. And then you can drop your ulti if you want to. I mean, it's ridiculous how much he pairs up with so many heroes. And I honestly think I love him a lot more as a support than as like a farming hero. Just because he can do so much without items, I mean, yeah, they benefit him to make that mana pool bigger, but in the end result, you really only need to get one of each of your spells off, except for your Q, obviously. And you've already done so much as long as you've done it on the right targets, more or less. So I've loved the laning support of the Skywrath.
Yeah, I still wish we saw more of it, to be honest. I mean, I guess I sort of understand why we don't get to see him. It's not a dependable slow. You can't necessarily aim it. It will go to your closest enemy hero.
Yeah.
You can choose to try and shoot it to where it might hit multiple people. It is kind of a slow projectile, so it's hard to plan out. The silence is really your only dependable crowd control, which, I mean, like you said, it can be really useful. Ramps up magical damage on that target. That's obviously can be really important. But yeah, I've had to play against Pugna a couple times, which, let me tell you, is a little painful. But if you just take advantage of the slow as well as the silence, it just those two spells feel really useful, and especially because it's like the range, the influence. I mean, we're gonna eventually transition to talking about Rod of Atos, but it's sort of a similar thing to that. You just have this super long range slow, and what that's able to help you do as far as ganking, as far as being able to make your presence known in a fight. I mean, I remember that being one thing I really wanted to harp about when we were talking about Skywrath the first time. It's just that you're so quick, you have such a long range, it's really a small amount of time that it takes for you to be able to put yourself within the area of influence of a team fight. And yeah, when we get to the Rod of Atos, that's obviously something that I think is really important about that item.
Rod of Atos, Skywrath?
Oh yeah. Oh yeah. I mean, do you just want to break it down now? I mean,
it sounds like we're right on the verge of it, so let's just hop in.
Yeah. So, Scott Balfour, I took back my BFF bracelet that I made for him out of macaroni and sticks.
That's a weird bracelet. I wouldn't wear it either. But
it was cooked macaroni too, so it really didn't make any sense.
That's strange. Okay.
He left a comment. It was a sharp comment about not liking Rod of Atos, and that's fine. Scott, I appreciate it. No worries, dog. That just made me look at Rod of Atos even more. And like I was saying earlier in the episode, it's an item that is kind of like really weird. It's an item that a couple of players really like to use, like Owie 2000 is one of them. If you look at the distribution for where that item is sort of built, it's like really focused on a couple particular heroes, which is probably even more because it's only built by certain players. But it has a crowd control component. It's not like a sheep or something that shuts down a hero in particular. It's not something that gives you a crazy damage buff or anything. It's really kind of a meh item for stats. It's a kind of meh effect, you could argue. what are your thoughts on it, Jay? What do you think about the item? How do you see it fitting into the game? Any of your musings on Rod of Atos?
Well, it was created in 6.73, and then there was light. No, and then there was just only buffs. They've been buffing it almost every patch. Just over time, they've noticed it's been not quite valued, and that's the way Ice Frog likes to go. If he thinks something that should really be in the game that he likes, he'll keep going up and up on it until it eventually is used, and it is at least starting to get used. I think that's the thing I'm starting to take away from it. This last patch, cooldown reduced from 16 to 12 seconds. So now it's it's a 25% reduction. So that's pretty large when you think about it. And if only a 50 mana cost, that's really not expensive for supports to use it. And it's mostly supports getting it. Now granted, there's the bristleback occasionally. There's some heroes that will get it that aren't necessarily supports. But I've found some interesting facts with it on that site, the Dota. That Dota, Jesus, hard to pronounce it for some reason for me. Too many D's. There's two. Too much. Double D's. I'm done. Okay.
Were there a handful?
Yeah, they were.
You're welcome.
That was a great one. But if I'm reading the site correctly, it says the time's 28 minutes. So that's the average time that they're getting it in the game. Which would make a lot of sense if it's mostly supports getting the item, because obviously that's not something you would rush right away on those supports. It's usually I'd say a second rather decent item you would pick up on someone. But it's weird to compare to an item like Force Staff or like other utility items. Obviously it does the function of a sheep. Well, not a function, but it provides you some kind of crowd control like a sheep stick, but for way cheaper. And I think it's just really an all-around good item that is undervalued. But I know you have a lot of great opinions on it. What do you think about it?
Well, that's the thing. I mean, because I've sort of made a lap around my thoughts of the item, because when Scott made his comment earlier in the week, that was one of the things he was saying. He was like, I really don't see one situation where this item's really great. I don't see a situation where I wouldn't want to just get like a Force Staff plus a health item, or a Blink Dagger plus a health item. And when you think about it that way, it's like, yeah, what, this item doesn't necessarily give you the impact that some other items give you. Yeah, Scythe of Eyes is really expensive, but Sheep is huge. Like, it can shut down some heroes' abilities. Like, we've been talking about Bristleback so much. You can't proc the Bristleback when you're a little piglet. The Rod of Atos, it's actually really efficient for the cost to create it and what you get for the stats. The 25 int, the 325 health. And when we've talked about it in the past, it's sort of like the ability is sort of what is really nice. It's like you said, 12-second cooldown, 50 mana cost, 60% movement speed slow at 1200 range. Pretty dramatic slow, long range, low cooldown, relatively low mana cost. And like you said, this is an item that's been sort of buffed slowly but surely ever since it really got created. And I think that's what's part of what makes it interesting, because when you think about how this item sort of fits in to the game, if you make it really cheap and easy to get, and it's a long range slow, just thinking about it like that, then every support's going to want to get that. Mm-hmm. Because I know what I've talked about before, it's like, oh man, if you can go between lanes and you can sort of like get the jump on somebody, or if you're just trying to gank, it's really nice to have that super long range to be able to start your attack with. Obviously, if you're able to get that super early in, then you can just run away with the game just off of that. Or buy it on a hero that doesn't necessarily have a slow in their kit, and have it really early and make a big impact that way. The other side of that coin is it's a expensive item, has kind of big pieces. We could put it on a carry, but like OD perhaps, who wants that high int. But it's not even like a super expensive item. It's not giving you super big stats. It's just kind of like in the middle. And that's kind of why I'm thinking like it's sort of lost in space of being like good to some professional players, good on some heroes, but maybe not just a generally used item. It seems like find itself just somewhere in the middle.
Yeah, it's it's not necessarily a bad thing for an item to be niche. Like we were talking about how like Hand of Midas and Necro were starting to transition into this every game, almost every hero support people should be trying to build this because it's just so powerful and it, influences the game, the way the game's played drastically. And we don't want items to necessarily do that, especially affordable ones. Like maybe if they're late game tier, like Abyssal Blade or something that really, or Sheepstick that gives a big impact. Well, that's going to cost you a lot of your gold, and I mean, so therefore it's worth, or it makes sense that it gives that much impact on the game or that much influence. This one only 3,100. So really, should it make that much of an impact on the game? I don't think so, and I think for what you're investing in it's really a great idea to pick up just in general. I mean, 1,200 range, like you're saying, 4 seconds, 60% slow. That's stronger than a lot of slows in the game, actually, or at least on par with them. And 4 seconds is actually a rather long duration. So as long as you have the vision to maintain with the hero, it should be a lot of easy damage you can apply to them. And like I said, for 50 mana, I mean, you're getting how much? 25 intelligence just alone from the item. So the mana is pretty much covered by the item itself for the cost. And I don't know. I honestly think that not every hero obviously benefits, but like you're saying, there's some that will obviously make a lot of use out of getting that slow. And it's actually listed as a core for Skywrath Mage. And, just opening that can of worms. Basically, his ultimate and his constant nuking pressure is why a slow is so powerful on him. Just the fact that you can get that amplified damage and just spam nukes on him during that slow. That's really a powerful way to go about it. What other heroes do you think would be another great choice? Well, obviously, we've mentioned Bristle as an interesting choice. Not necessarily great, but we can see its utility there. What else are you thinking?
I think like OD and Silencer, I think, are great choices. Ancient Apparition is a hero that just struggles so much for intelligence and just a mana pool to work with. The one that I actually find really interesting is Visage, because one of the reasons that I like picking up Rod of Atos, and it's something that we mentioned the last time we talked about, is just these heroes that have really long cooldowns that you sort of get yourself into a fight, you cast 2 spells, and then you're like, okay, I'm done. I don't know what to do. And I actually, when we were talking about last week, I wanted to play some support Alchemist. I did some of that this week, and I was kind of throwing around the idea of I might wind up building the Rod of Atos on the Alchemist, in part because, the cooldowns are kind of long. 22 seconds on Acid Spray, 16 seconds on Unstable Concoction. Okay, you have Mech, you can pop that. You have Medallion, you can refresh that. But then you just kind of wind up slugging at the enemy heroes.
For not much damage.
For not much damage. You might have a Basher, that's great. You might be able to put up stun up, but you're sort of just sitting around until Unstable comes back up. And, one of the games that we played pretty recently, I was able to put together some good support items. I had Mech, I had Pipe up against a high magic damage team, but I got in these team fights, I used those items, I used my spells, I'm like, I don't have anything else to contribute. I'm just waiting for a cooldown to come up. And that's where I really like the item. But that's kind of what I find interesting about Visage being the hero that picks up this item the most in competitive play, because he's obviously just got buttons to hit all the time.
Yeah, exactly. Well, obviously, he's doing a lot of work throughout the fight. And, on top of micromanaging, of course, the little minions, the familiars. But yeah, he's got so much he has to maintain, but it's just another cooldown in his set. Obviously the Soul Assumption being the 4-second cooldown. But he's another great one. I mean, and that's the interesting thing. Seeing it built on him, he has the built-in slow. He has the Grave Chill, which gives actually a very, very decent one. 32%. Now, granted, not as good as 60%, but still not bad. And the 64% attack drain on top of that. So he's really keeping someone in place while bursting out a lot of damage, hopefully, with his team. Yeah, I can tell you. Were you going to interrupt me?
I just think it's interesting that, you see this item being picked up also on heroes that have slows already. Like you said, the Grave Chill is obviously a nice slow and is good for the attack speed, but also you have it on Skywrath Mage. I mean, we talked about that being sort of hard to use effectively, or to aim to be able to pick a priority target.
Yeah.
But OD and Silencer in particular, I feel like it's a really strong choice. Like you were saying earlier, the average game time is kind of long to pick up this item, whether or not that's because it's a support building it or because it's not your first item choice. I really don't think that you should try to build this item first. I really do like the Force Staff and like that a lot more for being a first item choice, just because it has more of an imposing presence. You can help move other people around, enemies as well as friendlies, and where obviously Rod of Atos is just about affecting enemy heroes. So I don't know. Do you have any heroes in particular that you really like it on, or you like it against? What heroes?
Well, obviously, heroes that are kiteable are going to be the ones. Ursa's the easiest one to say in any situation, but really just any melee hero for the most part that has to be on top of someone doing their damage. Phantom Assassin, if he's in the game. Other people as well.
I think the biggest one for me, and maybe this is like super niche, but I know Scott was mentioning, he's like, I don't really see a situation where I really like it. The one where I will like be like, yep, Rod of Atos, actually against Lone Druid. Being able to keep that bear off of somebody is fantastic. And if you are trying to use some of your spells to crowd control the bear, like obviously that's where all the items are. It's important to try and keep the bear off people, but I really like, okay, you have this sort of extra hero to play with. Well, I would like an extra form of crowd control that I can get in a reasonable amount of time that'll make a big impact. And I'll be honest with you, I think that that's actually a situation where Rod of Atos has a great amount of impact, because obviously random bear swipes randomly, and it can be really detrimental to get caught by an entangle at the wrong time.
Oh yeah, well that's actually a great example. Just that is one of the really annoying things to deal with. And like I said, kiteable things. And the Lone Druid Bear is one of the ones that's actually hard to kite because he gets so much move speed with how much with the Lone Druid kit in general, and also the move speed he gets eventually over time. But that's still 60% of whatever speed he has is the more move speed you have, the more he's slowing you. So clearly, it's not necessarily a bad thing. I think that's actually a strong choice, to be honest. The only heroes that really doesn't... Ranged heroes, not really going to help you, obviously, as much. I mean, granted, 1200 range means you're still going to be able to use it on them, but, it's more about the melee guys and getting them stuck in a spot where you can manage them more efficiently and more effectively. I mean, yes, okay, any item that would allow you to hard CC against these heroes obviously is better, but you have to factor in, is it affordable? And most of the time, no, that's not the case. Sheep Stick, Abyssal Blade, all the ones that are going to keep them locked up. Yules. I mean, Yules is an interesting thing, just because, and that's kind of almost like an alternative in the fact that it's another utility, but it doesn't give you that health, and it doesn't give you that raw stat as much. It's more about mana regeneration, the move speed it gives you. It's a whole different item, obviously, but and that obviously combos with other things differently. But I think the Rod of Atos does a much better job allowing your team to continue attacking them, continue to be walloping on them while you're still, like I said, kind of managing them in the fight.
Yeah, I mean, I think it's interesting to think of it as sort of a combo item, because there are obviously heroes that like to build the Yule Scepter, even though, it's not a super common item in itself, but, the Ancient Apparitions, the Lenas that like to pick it up, which are like, hey, we can help line up some of our more difficult to hit spells with this. And I think that's kind of another good way to think about the Rod of Atos. I mean, like I mentioned last episode, it's kind of nice to think about it on an Alchemist, because sometimes you get line of sighted with the Unstable Concoction. It's nice to be able to keep somebody in range, to be able to throw that stun out. And if you're playing with a hero that has Bash, let alone against one, you can keep somebody in range, make it easier for your bear to get more hits in and try to get that necessary entangle to help make a fight happen. So I think that sort of both of those items wind up fitting in a place where they have their uses. They're sort of maybe super niche, but my problem is sort of like, I wonder what Ice Frog could do to maybe, or all of Valve could do to just sort of bring this.
No, just
item,
Ice Frog.
Just Ice Frog. I forgot he
does everything there. There is no company. It's really just him and Gabe. Gabe's the face of the company, and Ice Frog's just back in like a little corner, like just doing everything on one little computer. I can only imagine.
Yeah, I think Gabe and Ice Frog just 1v1 mid all day long, dreaming up the next patch. I think is probably exactly how work gets done at Valve. But maybe sort of going back to what we were talking about earlier with, is if it could be too strong if it was cheap, and it might be too core on some heroes
Here's a
if it
thought.
was expensive, yeah?
What if we made it kind of less effective stats-wise, or even maybe slow-wise, but making it more affordable, like in the 4-staff range, like 2100, 2000 instead of 3100? Do you think more people would pick it up?
I've always liked that. Like, if you could do one staff of wizardry and like the bit booster,
And like a recipe, like a cheap-ass recipe, maybe like a couple through 300, or I don't know.
the one that I was kind of poking around and seeing what other people had to say about the Rod of Atos. One I thought was interesting was like 2 Robe of the Magi in place of one of the staves of wizardry, and either decreasing the int or just you'd have to decrease the int because it's obviously really int efficient as it is, but but then it's sort of like that problem of you get it so cheap that everybody can build it, and it could almost be like the Heaven's Halberd on supports, where it's kind of like, obviously it's a really strong item if you can just pick up health, evasion, and a strong disable against carries. But when you have people like Crystal Maiden picking it up, that's a little weird, right? Like, obviously that's, whatever.
Those Sage procs.
I'm not saying, I'm not saying like nerf Heaven's Halberd or make it more expensive, but it's kind of a weird item choice. If you have just anybody picking it up, I think that's kind of, where you were talking about earlier, you're getting into the range of like Midas and Necrobook, where you get to see it all the time. And the thing that I kind of am the most worried about, to be honest with you, Jay, is that if there was ever a time for this item to be good, it's right now, because one hero who has not entered the pool almost has the item built into its kit, and that's the Winter Wyvern. He wasn't in Dota 1 until fairly recently, hasn't made it to Dota 2 yet, so I'm not going to talk about it too much, but one of his abilities is Arctic Burn. Extends his attack range, places a slow on the person he's attacking, and does an HP burn per second, and allows the hero to actually cliffwalk, etc. So, here you have this hero that sort of gets almost what we're talking about and making it really strong for early game. You have the long range of influence, you have a stun, it even does damage, and then you can use it from level 1. So when you sort of have this item in comparison to that hero, if you're going, wow, I'd really like a single target slow from long range, why build the item when we could just maybe pick Winter Wyvern, who obviously has other great things in the kit that we can ignore for the time being?
I would highly doubt one hero would take an item out of relevance, but I see where you're going with that. I definitely do. It makes a lot of sense. And I don't know. I know nothing about that hero, so I don't know if he would be popular, if anything like that would go on. But I actually do think, in general, though, this actually is the time for it to be built. Just for first of all, for the reasons of the buff it received, I really do think that was a large undervalued buff. 25% cooldown reduction on item is rather large. The fact that it's a 12-second cooldown and a 4-second duration is not that long in between, 8 seconds. So you really could get multiple uses out of a fight, and maybe keep yourself out of harm's way. Plus, giving a support health and mana. How can that go wrong? I mean, even some of the melee ones, there's not, some of these melee heroes might not be relevant in the pro scene, but how about a Tide Hunter with this item? He always gush, but what if he had another slow on top of that, giving him even more of a mana pool to work with on top of everything? I mean, it doesn't have to necessarily be a ranged int hero that gets this item. It really could have value on multiple people.
The one that I'm actually really sad about that I didn't really realize sooner, and I haven't really messed around with enough, admittedly, is Doom. Because you have this hero that, okay, if the item would be really strong if we could build it earlier, well, Devour gets you stuff faster. He's a hero that you can potentially, at least in the pubs, run in the jungle, who could benefit from having the ability to add a little bit of crowd control or add a little bit more effectiveness with a gank. And then he's a hero that, has some mana issues if you're using all of your abilities. You're giving yourself int so you can drop some level deaths to do some more damage. And I think that's actually really interesting, especially when you consider this is a hero that with Scorched Earth speeds himself up. So he really could get a big movement speed swing through the use of his abilities and this item.
And then when he gets Oghanims and he You know?
Gets Blink Dagger too. There's no way to get out
And mules. I mean, race car Doom is the way to go at that point. No, actually, that is kind of interesting. Now you mention it, because like you said, he's a hero that struggles with mana on a regular basis, and granted, none of the things invested give him just damage, which he would like to have, since he is at the end of the day an auto attacker. I mean, sure, he can be like a buffer or something, but you want him to be able to kind of be some kind of threat besides just a Doom and maybe a level death here and there. So that is the only downside, I'd say, of the item for him, but the other stats feed into him pretty well, and I don't know. I think that would be an interesting way to go after the bottle, perhaps.
Of course. The other nice thing too with that is, obviously Doom is a hero that can sort of supplement the kind of game that he wants to play by being able to eat creeps. So, if you're one of those Dooms that likes to run around with the Alpha Wolf buff all the time, feel free, because you can get yourself a slow in another way. You could, if you're really trying to look to make up the damage, you could go for the Satyr Hellcaller, which will give you the health regeneration as well as the magic damage line nuke. There are different ways I feel like you can mess around with, making up for the fact that you're building yourself an item that might not necessarily give you damage. I'm actually really going to try that, and like I said, I'm sad that I didn't think of it sooner and haven't messed around with it enough.
Yeah, that'll be, well, hey, you've got 8 more games to mess around with me in my game, so, and not feel bad about anything you do, because I always get blamed at the end of the day for my pick, so it's gonna be okay either way.
I was gonna say, how long until we see Tusk Rod of Atos, Jay?
No,
That's the real
see,
thing.
I was gonna bring it up, and the thing is, it literally makes no sense on him.
It doesn't.
At all.
Nope.
At all.
No.
I can't even say it any at all. No, I'm sorry, but this is the thing is, if his ultimate didn't slow the hero, I would consider it. But you're always going to use Walrus Punch on the enemy you're ganking. So, and it provides a 40% slow for up to 4 seconds. So why do you need a Rod of Atos on top of that? If you're saying, to initiate, no, that's what Snowball's for. That's what Ice Shards is for. That's what a Shadow Blade does a much better job of, in my opinion. But, if you're going support Tusk, there's your opportunity. And it's not even a good one, because like I said, you already have 2 great initiations. So why even throw in I'm not really as much feeling that.
Yeah, there's no need to force it, Jay. It's okay.
You were trying. I tried. I really did. Okay, I tried.
It's okay. But yeah, I mean, I think that's a pretty good. I don't know if you can give the item much more.
We tried.
Of an
Scott, we did our best.
I mean, do you have any other items that you feel like are in this sort of weird? I don't know if I mentioned this earlier, but it's actually the 5th least built item of the patch. There are more Divine Rapiers than there are Rod of Atos in the game. Are there any items to you that you're just like, it kind of is good, but I don't know when I would build it? Or
Veil of Discord is an item that I think I understand the when you want to pick that up in a team comp, but yet I feel like I definitely don't see it as much. And what number is that on the list? Do you know?
Ooh. You keep talking and I'll figure it out.
But I feel like it's definitely around that Rod of Atos mark, and it's it's got such great uses potentially with the right team. Now, yeah, if you don't have a lot of magic damage to go around, if you're mostly physical, like I would not get that on a team with like Tusk and a hard carry, and obviously there's too much physical going around. You're not really getting the buff. But I remember we've had this discussion kind of about the item before when it was put in. With like Sand King getting it, a Lich getting it, getting it over Oghanims even, just because it's going to probably do more damage with the debuff overall. Did you pull up the stat?
It's currently tied for 8th. Here's your quiz of the day.
Uh-oh.
What item is it tied with? Starts with an M. It's multiple words.
Mojito. Oh. Sorry. That was a drink. Morbid Mask.
Oh, you're so close. Mask of Madness.
Close.
Actually, 74 builds in 6.79.
Wow. Well,
So there's that.
That's a lot of Mask of Madnesses, actually. I'm pretty surprised that there's that many Mask of Madnesses. Who's building all those Mask of Madnesses? Is it all Svens and Facelesses, I guess?
You know, that's
There's been
a strong
that many?
question.
That is a strong question, because when you think about it, I can't honestly think of any other hero that would really build that item.
Well, you know, you have to hard counter those Slarks, Jay, with your Faceless Void plus Mask of Madness, and
Absolutely.
it actually is the most built on Sven, 7 times. Or, no, I might be lying to
7?
you right now.
What?
I'm sorry, I lied. Oh, wow. 21 with Batrider.
Oh, that makes a lot of sense now. Okay, that does make a lot of sense.
Would you like to guess, too? It's an int hero.
Skywrath Mage.
Nope. Enchantress.
Oh! Of course!
On the hurt.
Why wouldn't it be?
And then it's Sven.
Yeah, well. Wow, Sven's not number 1. Well, I guess he's just not picked as much. That's got to be what it is. But because I'm pretty sure most games he grabs that item, so there's that. If it had some kind of damage component at all, Sven would pick it up every game because he struggles with the kiting issue so much that if he could just somehow get a little bit of a slow on a hero, it would be magic for him. But,
Maybe you should build Rod of Atos.
well, yeah, as his like 3rd or 4th item. Maybe.
On everybody. You should get it on everybody.
You really should, I guess, is the moral of the story here.
Probably. But yeah, I think we did pretty good, Jay. Got to talk about an item that nobody gets to mess around with. I hope everybody out there gets to sort of take it for a ride. Abaddon is actually another hero that I was remembering reading people saying is an interesting choice because it's so hard to get in on enemy heroes to be able to apply the Frostmourne effect or the pardon me. Oh no, I'm having a U moment.
The Curse of Avernus.
Yeah. So
U moment, excuse me.
I mean,
that's a little rude, but okay.
But
it's true.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think there are lots of opportunities out there. Maybe not, your first option for an item, but I definitely think it's got more potential than we get to see in the pub scene.
I actually like it on Abaddon. Abaddon, excuse me.
Bad, yes.
I do actually like that now. Now that I think about it, it's an interesting choice. Now, granted, I'd say Mech is a lot more popular on him as like a big item he rushes for, just so he can be that much better at healing his team. But I could totally see that being built on him. Now that I think about it, just for the fact that, like you said, he doesn't really have a CC. He does everything else for his team, but he doesn't have a CC. So now you're giving him one on a low cooldown. He's just that much more useful. And think about it also this way. Not only now does he have a slow, but his Aphotic Shield removes slows and stuff, so you kind of are almost making it look like you're speeding up your teammate that much more.
You don't have to force it, Jay. It's okay.
I didn't word it well, but someone could have followed my logic there. It was getting there, I think. By the way, where's all the abandoned Aghanim Scepters when you want them? That's my question.
Now you're definitely trying to force it.
2 more seconds on that duration? I mean, come on. What can't you do? What can't you do in 2 seconds? That's 2 more seconds closer to another Rod of Atos use. That's all I have to say.
Exactly. We all know how, that's what, a seventh of its cooldown?
Beautiful.
Come on. I don't know. Do you have any other thoughts, my friend?
No, I think we done a good job. Sorry, I'm not sorry. This is more of a looser kind of setup for this week, but we wanted to get more into it. And as I do approach my Tusk games, and like you said with this LAN, I couldn't imagine going through it and not finishing up my Tusk games, but you never know. But either way, there will be a final report when it's all said and done, and I'll let you guys know the final verdict. Hopefully we can match that 60% that BDLM gave for me, but I guess we'll have to find out.
We'll get there. And also, I feel like whenever I say that there's an episode coming up in the future, we never get the opportunity to actually have that episode. But there's actually going to be one in the future of sort of the unsung heroes of 6.79. So if you guys are out there watching games, watching in the pro scene, and you're seeing this hero that's sort of you're seeing all of a sudden out of nowhere that isn't really sort of getting all the praise or attention that maybe it's oh man, I haven't seen this guy in forever. Where has he come from? I know I've seen like more Undying and Slardar, which we'll definitely be talking about in that cast of late. So feel free to drop by the youtube.com/Dota on Demand, facebook.com/Dota on Demand. You can download us on the Stitcher. You can follow us both on the Twitters and get us there. I'm BLM. That's my buddy J4Y. Come by. Let us know what you think. Come let us know what you think about the Rod of Atos and who you try it on. We'll see you guys next week.